Alright, what's going on, guys? So, sitting in my car here on a nice Alaska night because I ain't got nowhere else to record right now. It's a little bit late, so I'm trying not to wake people up. But just wanted to talk about like mental resiliency and kind of like my experiences with it, and just a little kind of equation that I came up with. I was thinking about just kind of piecing together. And a little bit of story time, like experiences that kind of led me to this little equation and how I kind of think about it. So the first thing I'll say is that, mental resiliency really comes from doing something tough or experiencing something tough, something like that really pushes your limits a little bit. And sometimes you choose to do it, sometimes it just happens to you. I know for me, I had like really bad acne growing up from age 13 until around 23, 24, 25-ish. It kind of lingered for at least 10 years, or real bad for at least 10 years. And I started to kick it by the time I got to be about 24, 25 years old. Now I'm 30 and I get, one pimple every once in a while. Still have a little bit of scars, but thankfully it's pretty much cleared up. But that was a pretty rough period in my life, pretty rough time from my like teens to my early 20s, just having to deal with that shit. Like it was bad enough to where I had to take like Accutane pills and whatnot to get rid of it. I just remember like looking at myself in the mirror before, going to high school, going to school in the morning, and I just didn't want to go. I was like, man, like I don't want to leave the house right now. I remember that very clearly. It was tough, but in a fucked up kind of way. I'm almost kind of grateful that I had, that bad of acne back in the day, because it literally and figuratively made me, tough-skinned individual, if you will. So it definitely made me able to kind of handle a lot more after going through that experience. Because if you can deal with just, kind of not liking yourself for so long, and dealing with that, kind of having to fight through that for so long, you can really go through anything. Not advocating that anybody have that experience. I wouldn't wish that experience on my worst enemy. But what I am advocating for is doing, something challenging every day, physically and mentally. Going to the gym, playing sports, doing something that challenges you physically, and builds up muscle, makes you work a little bit, makes you sweat a little bit, causes a little bit of muscular pain, not straining muscles pain, but a little burn. Push yourself a little bit, push it a little bit farther each time, and not only physically but also pushing yourself academically. Maybe trying to go take a college class, do a new certification. Maybe if you've never been to college and you've never been to any higher education, you put your next sights on that to try and push it to the next level. A lot of people think maybe they're not smart enough for college or whatever the case may be. I don't think I probably wasn't even smart enough for college. I just tried really hard. Like, you don't necessarily have to be, super smart or anything like that to go to college. You just have to, have the fortitude to do it. And as you continue to push yourself and, get to that next level, you start to develop that resiliency, that mental fortitude to be able to push, the limits more and more. But the equation that I was kind of referring to in the beginning is kind of that initial hard thing that you do or that you go through. So for me, it was like the acne, and then also, I lifted weights. Combining that with overall accountability for your actions. And kind of combining those two things together are what help, build someone into, a monster that can bounce back from anything. And I'll kind of give some anecdotes, some stuff in my life and how I kind of came to this conclusion. So, we had like the acne that I had at first that really built a lot of like mental strength from having to go through that. But I also, like, over time just learned to take accountability for my actions, to be like, I was wrong for doing that. I did mess that up. I did, cause someone else some pain. I did do that. And once you're able to accept that, there's power in that, because you combine those two things together, and you become, able to bounce back from just about anything. So the anecdote for that in my life was my ACL surgery. So, when I blew out my ACL, for that first week or so after I had surgery and I had to, start therapy, I was feeling pretty sorry for myself. I had to still living with my parents. My mom basically had to take care of me. I felt like, a shell of a man. Like, I didn't have anything going for me, no money, no, anything. I thought I was going places, but it all was just kind of taken from me right then and there. And felt pretty sorry for myself for that first week. But I was like 21, 22 at the time. But at that point, I had already been lifting weights. I had been to college, 2-year school. For about 7 years, I had been lifting weights, and I had kind of developed that mental fortitude a little bit in my mind. Like, I had already gone through a lot of brutal workouts. I had always pushed myself in the gym, and I think this was a huge part of how I was able to bounce back from ACL surgery, because I had that part, that mental strength. But after that week or so of feeling sorry for myself, I also had the accountability, because I started after that week realizing that, I need to stop feeling sorry for myself. I need to accept it for what it is, and accept that I did this, I caused this, and then we have to push forward. And I combined those two things together to bounce back from ACL surgery, and it took over a year of doing my rehab exercise, but I was a maniac doing the rehab exercises. Nothing could keep me from doing what the PT, the physical therapist, told me every single day. And I don't know if I would have been able to bounce back from it if I hadn't developed that initial resiliency. And this is what I try and teach, is that combining that accountability and building that mental strength really turn you into something maybe you never thought you could have been. Make you better than anyone you ever thought you could have been. But that's just kind of my thoughts, guys. Just wanted to make a quick video with that. Maybe it's quick. I don't know how many minutes I've been talking. But I think I'll put this picture in the video too, the little equation thing I came up with, so y'all can see it. But just some thoughts I'm having, kind of late night. Try to help some of you guys, build that mental resiliency. Not to say that I have it all figured out or anything like that, but just want to see some of you guys be better. But like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if you want to see something else, have any questions, anything of that nature. We'll see you guys. Appreciate y'all.